Well, I guess it's been quite the while, hasn't it? So about a year ago, or I guess at this point a year and a half, I made a series of videos where I ranked every single 2D Sonic level in the franchise, or at least the mainstream ones. I ranked all of the Genesis Classic Sonic stages, that is from 1, 2, 3 in Knuckles, CD, and Mania, and then in the second video, I went over the modern Classic Sonic stages, that is Sonic Forces, Sonic Superstars, and Sonic Generations. In that video, I said the conclusion to this playlist would be me covering all of the Dimps games, and I guess I'm finally getting to it now, I guess.
All you need to know is that this video will be covering Sonic Advance 1 only, as I'm going to cover the 2 other Advance games in subsequent videos, with the other Dimps games be covering sometime elsewhere, because right now I do not have the time to cover all of them at the moment.
It is also important to, I guess, give a little disclaimer that I'm going to be a lot more critical in this video, since a lot of time has passed in between the 2 videos, and my mind's changed a lot about the way I do things on here, and how I'm now a little bit more critical about some of my older videos. Not that I think they're bad or anything, it's just that I feel like I went less into the design aspect of the levels and was more doing a subjective review of them, which is something I'm trying to get out of. More in-depth critique is what I'm trying to go for now. So if it seems like I'm being a bit harsh in this video, just do keep in mind that I do still love these games, and I think they're amazing Game Boy games, but they don't really hold up to modern standards as much as I'd like. And that goes for a lot of the design decisions that Dimps level design has. But without further ado, after that lengthy intro, I guess it's time to start getting into it. Unlike the last video, I'm going to go in order of the games released and not in order of how I'd rank them. So here we go with Sonic Advance 1, and let's get started. Okay, starting off, for the first level in Sonic Advance, we have Neon Green Hill. A nod to Green Hill, obviously, from the Genesis era games, but way different in its design, as you'll see going forward. Sonic Advance is inspired from the Genesis, but I feel like its level design, for better and for worse, is way more distinct to the Genesis games, and that is shown no better than in the first level, Neon Green Hill Zone. First off, we have the first section of the level, and it leads directly into a platforming section. And one of the biggest things that this does is that the player can jump up on these planks, and they get rewarded with a shield, but also it's dangerous because of this crab enemy. And what you'll notice is that Sonic Advance, at least in its early levels, likes to reward exploration, as the player could be trudging along to the right, but if they ever decide to turn around and look up or just jump to the left, they get rewarded as well. So it doubly rewards exploration in that case, although, as I don't like with Dimps' level design, they have annoying enemy placement that can detract from exploration, as you'll see in the future. And it's important to bring up a little quirk with at least Sonic Advance 1. Springs cannot be activated from any angle like in the classic games. That means if you jump on it from the top, it will not activate. You have to be at it at a diagonal angle. So Sonic has to be at it from an angle like this, which is quite annoying for platforming segments. So that's an important thing to keep in mind, is the difference between the level design and Dimps. I don't know if that's a glitch or if that was intentional, but it is something to look out for. But we get our first speed section, the first speed section in the level, in which the player goes down these loops and then can optionally grind on these rails. But most importantly, they have this long winding section where they just go fast to the right. And this is a bit of a misnomer because I actually don't like what this does to the player. I don't like the precedent it sets, but you'll see why later. Just know for now, the boost pads mean go fast, as the first instance of it being used in a level was followed by a straight line. So therefore the player's condition, boost pad means I go fast and I get rewarded with speed. They can jump up to these loops up here and do some platforming avoiding the spikes. They get rewarded with the even better shield, the magnet shield, which attracts rings to them, minus the enemy placement, so that's also something we have to look out for. And they can choose to jump off of here and go on the aforementioned speed section, but if they choose to stay on this loop-de-loop part and look at the spring, they can get launched all the way over to these platforms over here and get rewarded with the first ring boxes of the game, which I give, I think, 10 to 20 rings, these both. But it is a bit of a blind faith jump, because of the screen crunch of the games. And I'm actually going to show an example here on my 3DS where I actually play the game. As you can see, you can't really see that much further than like left or right, and it makes platforming exceedingly difficult. Makes it really hard to platform, and that does not bode well, specifically with the questionable physics that DIMS has for the games. I think the air acceleration for Sonic is way too slow, and it leads to a very clunky feeling platforming, which, while it's not a problem in this level right now, it will become a problem eventually. But moving on, the bright sunny atmosphere of this level also gives the distinct vibe from Green Hill Zone, as Green Hill was more of this jungle-esque cave appearance, while Neon Green Hill gives a more coastal and so like Philadelphia or Miami, Florida vibe to it. On to Act 2, what you can notice immediately is that the spectacle is turned up a wee bit more. You have enemies far more aggressively placed at the beginning, and the level starts off with the speedy loop-de-loop section. But the spectacle gets turned up because you have this loop section into this nicely animated little waterfall, which if you notice, it took 2 platforming sections before we got to the real true speed section of the level, which is like the main spectacle of this first act with the 2 loop-de-loops and this little speedway. This place, it starts out immediately. And right now you already have your first introduction of slight path difficulty with this falling platform that will vanish if the player stands too much on it, or stands on it for too long, and this enemy placed here, which kind of incentivizes the player to jump, which is actually a pretty good design choice. Like, I usually rag on the enemy placement, but this is actually pretty decent, as it will force the player to jump. Notice that the platform falls beneath them. Now, the air acceleration should be faster to accommodate that, but that's an issue with the controls, not really the level design. Again, rewarding exploration by having the player get rewarded with a life if they just choose to press the control stick to the left. But even on this section, you have rewards just littered everywhere throughout the level. Just all these examples of just looking left gets you rewarded with something. Even on sections where it's like the failure route, you get rewarded with ring boxes, shields, except for like the very lowest of the low one, but even still, like if you continue on this path, you get an invincibility, which is pretty good. All in all, first level is super forgiving, super rewarding, and I think that's excellent level design for the first level. I wish they would have kept it. Although I don't like the spring placement, as it retracts progress from the player. They hit the spring, they get 5 rings, but can potentially go all the way back down here and restart the section, which I'm not a fan of. But yeah. The first level, Neon Green Hill Zone, just rewards the player a bunch with good platforming and exploration. This looks like another shield box that's... Oh no, this box you attain by jumping after hitting the spring, so that's actually really good use of the momentum physics there. And we get to my favorite section of the level, which is this little foresty area, which shows all the foliage here. And it's not the most rewarding section, like the top path definitely is more rewarding, but I like this middle section just because it looks the prettiest. Like, the sprite work here is insane. One thing I'll note is that the sprite work for the advanced games are actually low-key better than the Genesis at points. Like, I find them so charming, especially in Sonic Advance 2. But they put in the work, and the amount of little expressions that the characters have is simply superb. Finally, at the end of this top level gauntlet, if the player succeeds enough, they can get this life box. Again, super rewarding, especially for these earlier arcadey style games. But the life box at the beginning where you just go left and you get it is excellent and a way better reward, in my opinion, because this one requires you to do so much intensive platforming, which is quite difficult for a beginner. But yeah, after this last grind section and this beautiful middle section, that's basically the end of Act 2 as you get to fight Eggman. And while this isn't a boss review for the game, I will say most of the bosses in this game are pretty decent, except for the one for Ice Mountain, and I'll get to it when I talk about it. But yeah, so far, Neon Green Hill gets an A rank from me. Amazing first level, but an important one to master, as most players don't make it even past the 3rd level of the game. So the first level is extremely important to nail right, and I think it does. Next stage up on this list is Secret Base Zone, and before we get started, can we just talk about that music? Like, dang! One what an absolutely masterful second level to introduce the player to. First off, you have amazing spectacle with the city skyline in the background as Sonic looks and gazes upon the city with this zip line sitting right ready for the player to go. It's not only a good design decision because the mellowed out Neon Green Hill Zone was way more chill, getting the player antiquated with the physics and feel of the game. So starting off with a bombastic second opener is just pure genius and adds nicely to the pacing of the game. I don't mean to toot my own horn here, but when I was working on my game, Sparky Electric Jester Paradise, I had the second level FM Boulevard start out similarly with this grinding section that then cascades into the cityscape scrolling in from the right of the screen, and it creates this dynamic effect of you traveling really fast and really smoothly. Back into Secret Base Zone, I like the beginning of the level where it starts off with this little zipline section as it shows the player... Oops. Back onto Secret Base Zone, I like this beginning section where it shows the player the zipline mechanics starting out the level, as it's doing the Nintendo method of game design where it introduces a mechanic and expands upon it. This first section, it just takes you into this little corridor where you bounce off the spring, but this next section is actually some nice bit of subtle design, as if the player goes fast enough on it, they can... Let me use a brighter color, because this is kind of hard to see. Yeah, let me use this nice orange color. The player's going fast enough, they get to keep their momentum and collect these rings up here. A nice but subtle way of reinforcing, hey, momentum travels between stage gimmicks. You don't just stop moving when you introduce a new movement mechanic. And then they fall back down here. Really good design here, and it travels even further when you speed into this section and go super fast. Again, speed being a reward for the player doing well in the game. But into the actual base itself, you get this very, I'd say, linear path away, as you can only go... Basically, there's only like a top section, a middle section. If you go down here, you could go on this zip line, which takes you to this bottom section right here, which they both lead to this ring box, but only the top section leads to this magnet shield. Once the player goes down here, they get introduced to my least favorite enemy, one of my least favorite enemies in the game, this mole thing, which opens its hatch and goes under. Very annoying because you'll sometimes jump, and since the air physics are so bad in Sonic Advance, you'll just miss your opportunity to hit the enemy. Very frustrating. And the enemy placement in Sonic Advance games are notorious for being quite punishing, so you want to make sure you're hitting them as much as possible. But yeah, first act is pretty simplistic, all things considered. I'd say it's even more simple than Neon Green Hill Zone. It just turns up the spectacle a lot. You have this section right here where it's like the pipes from Chemical Plant, but given an extra bit of flair to add on to the spy theme. You have lava, and the second stage of the game, just absolutely peak. I love the stage's aesthetic so much. Act 2 actually takes a page outside of Neon Green Hill Zone, and instead of starting out with spectacle, it actually starts off with difficulty, as the first obstacles are these little plates that shoot up into the air and hurt the player if they stay under them while the plate is still in the air. So it's important that they avoid that. And I'd say this stage is a lot more platforming heavy than the previous one, even Neon Green Hill. I mean, you have this moving block, you have to avoid these spikes. Like, this section right here is especially quite difficult, as you have to land in between these spike pits, which, while possible, again, air physics makes it difficult. And you get a pretty smooth sailing top path. But on the bottom path, it's actually longer if you miss up here, because you have to go down here, do the platforming section, come up here, avoid the same enemy, and then still do the same platforming challenge. So it's extremely punishing to get the lower path on this level. But yeah, more decent rewards of exploration. You get a little life box if you manage to get up here, which the only way to get up here is to... Yeah, I don't think Sonic jumps high enough to make this, so is that really the... Oh, that's actually genius. Oh, that's actually genius. Okay, so what actually happens here is that what you have to do to get this life box, you have to reinforce the momentum mechanics. So like I was saying earlier with like the whole hang glider section, you have to spin dash and jump using your momentum to get up to this life box, which is a subtle mechanic that they actually teach you in the first level. Let me go back to Neon Green Hill real quick. If you notice in Neon Green Hill, I was saying the special stage is like bad placement because in order to get up here, you would have to be on this island and get to the spring. One of the ways you get to that spring is the same mechanic. Bounce off of this spring jump off the wall, and you get enough momentum to make it up to this platform. So, again, Secret Base reinforcing that mechanic. Excellent level design. The level ends with the mechanic it started with, a zip line down to the boss arena. And with that, that is the end of Secret Base Zone. An excellent second stage and easily an S ranking for the Sonic Advance stages. Alright, on to the third stage of the game, Casino Paradise Zone, and another A rank for me. This is one of the best stages in the game, not only aesthetically because it takes City Base's nice cityscape in the background and turns it up to 11, but also because this music is extremely underrated. Like, I know City Base is one of the most underrated songs in Sonic, and there's not nearly enough remixes for it, but Casino Paradise also has some pretty nice music. But how about that level design? City Paradise ups the difficulty, but in a good and organic way, which I will then contrast with how the later levels in the game, the last three, show it in a bad and negative way. So what Casino Paradise does well with this difficulty is that it adds more platforming and timing-based challenges to it. So, one, you have another momentum challenge here. If you jump off this ramp, get rewarded with a ring box. If you somehow platform off of these really precise bouncing bumpers, you get to this section, and we have bad enemy placement here as the players shouldn't be punished after they do that hard section. But the game devs, I guess they thought it wasn't enough to do this difficult section. Curiously though, you don't even need to do this. You could just go down the natural ray, avoid this spring, and if you just go up here, this totem will pull you up to this section as well. So kind of negates this section, I guess, but I guess they needed to add the space in here. A lot of the gimmicks they introduced into this level are inspired by Casino Night, as you have the bumpers, you have the regular pinballs that you can push Sonic up with and reach higher platforms, allowing for better exploration and more rewards. The first act is just full of fun platforming challenges, and it doesn't distract the player. Like, it's still challenging, but it's not annoying and frustration. Excellent. I don't even think there's any bottomless pits here. Oh, there is a bottomless pit. If you get to the very low actually not even the very low section. If you go to this teleporter, which teleports you up here, you go down here. If you manage to get on the lower platform, if you miss this balloon, then it's off to your death. You are, which we don't stand bottomless pits. Especially with the screen crunch, this is bad. No bottomless pits. No, 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 no. We do not like bottomless pits in this channel. But, it's very likely you're going to hit this balloon and it's going to automatically push you upward, so that's the only bad example I can find. And once you go through here, it's really just chill. Like, there's not too much BS to deal with. Again, some spikes up here, which is a bit anti-level design, as they're all at the beginning. You rewarded the player for jumping off of a ramp, now you're punishing them, because if they jump off the ramp at this point, they get hit by the spikes. Bit weird, don't know why they did that. But these enemies have their chance of hitting you if you're running, which I guess makes them decent. Although, kind of not, because this spring, like I said, you can only hit the top of it. So what's going to happen if you're not careful is Sonic will run into the spring here, and then this enemy will hit them. Which I guess if you see coming is fine, but you're most likely not. And stopping the player abruptly, unless they just know to jump here to go over, is not something I'm a fan of. But I guess they do give you a life afterward if you somehow manage to get up here, which is actually extremely difficult because this pinball pushes you up to this top layer. So you would have to time a very precise jump over it and then just walk up it naturally. So that's just, again, rewarding the player for paying attention, and then off they go down the cyclone. And at this point, that's the end of Act 1. You just go down the natural level, it plays itself. On to Act 2 is where things get slightly more difficult, as... Actually, no, it actually gets easier. There's no bottomless pit in this one. That's quite funny. There's just no bottomless pit in this level, so it's actually easier than the first one. Although, it does have a little test here. If you get to this pinball section, and you flap yourself at the right angle, avoiding this spring, because if you ever hit this, you go inside the bowl. If you fall off here, this flag totem will push you into the bowl, so you have to time the right angle to get above here, and even still, this enemy can hit Sonic and knock him into the bowl. So avoid the bowl is what I'm trying to say, because it leads to a lower path, which is slightly more challenging with these enemy placements and the conveyors that we saw in Secret Base Zone. Overall, this level is a lot more dense than anything else we've seen in the game. There are like 15 multiple pathways you could take. If you take the bowl, you have the bottom path, which again leads to this section where you can go on top or bottom. They converge, and even that leads into this portal section, which leads over here, which you can go left, or you can go on this top middle section, which if you fall off converges the same way. Like, there's just like 50 different pathways. It's actually insane. I think it's the most dense out of any other level in the game. Truly a pretty incredible testament to the design of the game. And if you manage to get to this high platform, you get an Easter egg with the Sonic here. Well, if you go on the bottom path, you don't. But yeah, that's basically it for Casino Paradise. Again, not going to go over the boss, but it's pretty annoying if you don't know what to do, but you just stand on this platform and you hit Eggman by reacting to where he comes out of. Good level. A rank. Next up, we have Ice Mountain Zone, the level with possibly the best music in the entire game. I don't know, it's pretty up there. Ice Mountain theme is insanely good. Like, it just sounds so magical and majestic. It's a gorgeous theme. The stage, on the other hand, not so much of a fan of. This is the first level I'm probably going to give a C. Is too harsh. I'll give it a low B, like B-. It does some things nicely, but ultimately it gets ruined by this little blue chunk here, water. I hate water in Sonic. Not just because it's like difficult or anything, but because it artificially makes the game hard, but not in a rewarding way. One of the main problems with the water is that it makes your physics very bad. Like, Sonic's physics in the water are terrible and just really unplayable at times. Like, it's so annoying. Your jump height is way floatier. Your arcs are way slower. Your air acceleration is uncontrollable. If you make a badly timed jump, good luck fixing yourself mid-air, because you're committed to that jump whenever you do it. So it's tedious to get through. And then there's the whole keeping track of your drowning, which makes the sluggish movement even more incessant. Like, you have to keep track of this imaginary meter that you don't get to see, so you're just guessing. And then it's RNG if you find a bubble spot. It's just bad mechanic. It's a very bad mechanic. I get what they were trying to go for. It's like a dangerous thing, but many times in the level, I think you're actually forced underwater. Yeah, if you see at this point in the level, there's no way of avoiding the water. So even using the argument that it's a punishment is null and void when you're forced to go into the punishment. Like, why do you want to punish the player for doing good? It doesn't make sense. It's artificial difficulty, and the worst kind, because unlike other games with like extreme difficulty ceilings like Cuphead and Celeste, when you die in Sonic Advance, you go back to the start of the game. There is no restarting the level from where you ended. You go back to Neon Green Hill Zone. So, yeah. I know that's unfair because it's a Game Boy game, but I mean, what can I say? That's just how the design is. I went to Act 2 of Ice Mountain, and this is the part where I was like, consider giving it a C ranking. This stage is far less forgiving. For one, there's a random jump here that leads you directly into the water, so you just have to know that's there. Although, this is pretty reactable if you're not just speeding and spin dashing, holding right to win. But yeah, this is way more punishing section, because let me see where the first bubble spot is in this level. First bubble spot is down here, which means you have to go here, wait for this falling platform. Oh, by the way, atrocious thing that this game does, this is when it starts introducing BS difficulty. There are hidden enemies in the walls here. So there are hidden badniks that will pop out of the wall and hit Sonic. Completely unreactable. There's nothing you can do. You cannot react to that unless you know it's already there. So hopefully you played this level before, because if you do, you're going to get hit here, waste more time underwater, which will lead you drowning faster. And then also, you have to explore beneath this platform to see the bubble spot here, which is bad because most players are just going to see this platform and go here. Top path should be rewarding. Oh, okay, never mind. There's a bubble spot here. Never mind. Have this little section here, which is reminiscent of Sonic CD, say hello. But this section is grueling because there's just a bunch of platforming, and with the water physics, these moving platforms that move up and down become pretty difficult to navigate. Like, I know I even struggled. Even though I would say, experienced with Sonic's level design, it was still taking me a bit of time to get past there. I didn't die or anything, but it's just pretty hard. Which, for the 4th level in the game, you could argue that's okay, but one thing I don't like about this level is that if you fall in the water once, you're stuck down there, there's no way to get back above water. The whole level just takes place underwater. Meanwhile, if you take the top path, you basically get the easy mode of the game. Like, the top path has no guaranteed water sections this time around until you get to the boss fight, which is good. That's what it should have been in the first level, but it's pretty punishing because, like, I don't like it. This is pretty unplayable in terms of, like, fun factor. The whole underwater section is not fun. So you want the player to be either easier to get in the top section or just don't have the underwater physics be so bad. That's like my main critique for this level. But once you get through all of that, you get to the final section here, which has the worst boss fight in the entire game because you're forced, and I mean you're forced, to stay underwater, draining your timer, and watching a lengthy cutscene where Sonic just has to see Eggman charge up his boss robot. This takes like 10 seconds too, by the way, so that's just 10 seconds of your drowning timer, gone. Then you have to platform off of the falling ice spikes to get above water. So you have to either choose to damage the robot or to use your once-in-a-lifetime above surface water to gain your air back. There's no air bubbles here, and that sealed it as being the worst boss in the game for me. The fact that there are no air bubbles when they're so clearly littered throughout the stage is just forced difficulty. It's not fair. And it's just very slow. Like, this boss is not fun to fight at all. It's just like, let me get through this so I can get to the, actual good parts of the game. So I had to take off points for that. So still a B because the aesthetic and the music is so gorgeous, but yeah, bad boss fight. But yeah, without further ado, let's move on. All of my holding back, all of my gripes with Ice Mountain Zone, yeah, none of it's gonna be held back for Angel Island. This stage and the next stage are just going straight into like D, very, very low C. These levels, no, these are just bad levels. And you're probably like, what? How is it such a drop in quality? I'll tell you why. This is where it starts to break the frustration index a lot. This is where Sonic Advance goes from slightly challenging to actively testing the player's patience with the amount of BS they have in the game. So first of all, there are bottomless pits galore in this level. Like, oh my goodness. Bottomless pit here, bottomless pit here, bottomless pit here. And they're on very hard to notice structures. Like, you could just be traveling here naturally, and if you go forward, which is expected, it's a slope, you expect slope equals speed section, well, you're gonna go tumbling off if you don't react to these clouds fast enough. Very bad, especially since the cloud, I think this is the first time, yeah, the cloud gimmick gets introduced here, which technically the clouds act the same as secret base zones platforms do, but one, they're way smaller, and two, the clouds actually blend in with the background a little bit because of, it being Angel Island, already a pretty cloudy level sprite-wise, so it's pretty bad to do this. I don't like that. On top of that, you have obnoxious enemy placement galore. Like, let me see where some of the enemies are placed. Aha! Straight enemy here, which is unreactable if you're just holding right. I know you shouldn't hold right to win, but that's pretty annoying to just have you run into an enemy, especially with screen crunch. You have this spring, which literally leads directly into an enemy. Atrocious, obviously. Once you get up to this sand section, you just have a random sand gimmick, which they copy and paste from every classic Sonic game, which is fine. Nothing mad about that. But the rest of this level is just full of bad enemy placement, like this chameleon here, which there's a gap, and if you get hit, you get sent all the way back here. By the way, losing progress in this stage is also very annoying. You can fall off from very high up, and it forces you to do the entire platforming sections all over again, which is just, yeah. There should be more checkpoints in this level. So imagine if you come at the top here, right? You're like, I want to explore. I see this little cool gear icon here, and I know if I run across it, it will take me to the right, which most likely has a reward. By the way, the reward is just 5 rings. And there's this annoying enemy that shoots its pellets at you as you try to platform onto it. So it just makes for a very annoying experience, and the reward is not even worth it. Like 5 rings? Come on. 5 rings, and you get to potentially jump off here and get a ring box, or a ring shield, when you're already at the end of the level, basically. Act 2 has this section where, due to screen crunch, if you just like spin dash because there's a straightaway, you will inevitably hit this wall, and go to your doom. Starting off the level with the bottomless pit, very, very bad. No, don't do that. Instead, there should be like a wall here, or like a spring or something that says stop, look below you. Remember those little explanation signs that are hung all throughout of Sonic Generations classic Sonic stages? Yeah, that's a perfect example of when to use that. Perfect hazard sign placement. Even worse, when you get to this section of the level, you have the speed section, and for whatever reason, there's this moving block which goes up and down. And if you get an unlucky cycle, Sonic can just get crushed here. Right? You can just die again. So that's not fun, because you can't even see this block when you're running up the spring here. So it makes it very luck-based. Same goes for here, although you can't really get crushed here. But you have this section, which bounces you up. Brand new gimmick, by the way. If the player presses jump, or doesn't do... If they press jump here, they'll fall off to their death, which is unfair because this is a new gimmick. The new gimmick is being introduced in a context in which failure equals death. Not really inviting level design, not gonna lie. Also, they don't even have enough time to react because this platform that you land on is not permanent. It will fall down if they last too long on it. So they also die, and they have to just know, jump onto this and do not jump off of it because it's a new gimmick. Now, you might just say they're stupid if they jump off of it, but you're assuming that the players played Sonic games, which I'm going at this from the angle that they haven't played a single Sonic game, and the level design is supposed to teach them the mechanics of how to play the game. This is very awful for that. Mostly it's the bottomless pits and bad enemy placement that drag this level's quality down significantly. But it's not the worst level in the game, that's for sure. And oh boy, when we get to the next level, you'll see why I consider it one of the worst in the entire Sonic Advance trilogy. But yeah, you get through the pathway here, make your way to the boss fight, which is actually pretty okay. Metal Knuckles is not too annoying. Like I said, most of the bosses, except for Ice Mountain, are pretty decent. But yeah, with that done, let's get to Egg Rocket Zone. Okay, right off the bat, before I say anything, Egg Rocket is by far the worst stage in the entire game, for two reasons. One, it breaks all the promises that the game's first level made to the player, and two, it has the worst level design in the entire game for a lot of reasons, but mostly it's because this level is very vertically focused, and specifically it's split into three sections. So you start off the level, you go traverse. Once you get inside the base, the rocket disconnects from this platform here and starts going forward. The movement is implied to be going upward. Then you have to do a bunch of vertical platforming, which is not very fun, nor is it fast, given Sonic's terrible jump physics in the game, and the atrocious enemy placement. Like, you already know how I don't like this mole thing, but you have enemies like this, which are aiming directly through narrow corridors. You have this spring, which leads directly into a spike pit unless you jump. I guess that could be fair, but you have to be fast reaction time, which is fine. Top of that, you have this annoying section, which I'm going to describe why it's so annoying. For one, it's anti-exploration, which means that it punishes you for exploring. So if you go all the way over here and manage to get over here, you're rewarded with a bottomless pit where you die. That's fun. I like that reward a lot. This section out this tunnel area can either lead to you going down this loop, hitting this booster, and dying if you go too far to the right, although that's pretty unrealistic because of the spring here. What's more likely to happen is you're going to fall all the way back down here, and guess what? You have to go through this platforming section all over again, which if you mess up again, you have to go down here once again. Isn't that fun, guys? It's just one giant old circle. One circle of repetitive, slow, patient platforming, antithetical to Sonic's design. So that's already a big minus. It's much safer to just take this spring and go down here, because what this encourages is that you'll hit this spring and go up to this top path, which is the actual best path. This one encourages you to go to the right, which, again, due to screen crunch, I know it's like, oh, it's so obvious, just go in this bottom path. You can't see this bottom path. Imagine this entire bottom path, it's just like a blur, and that all you see is this path up here, because that's what it looks like on your screen. It looks like this. Sonic is right here, and it just looks like there's a path right there. Anyway, you bounce off of this platform up to this place. You can either get the invincibility up here, which again is a decent reward in this case, but it's not worth the effort because you only have what, two enemies in this entire section that could potentially benefit you. Meanwhile, you have this entire platforming section, and what do you get at the end of it? A booster that launches you all the way back down here. So you gotta do all that over again, which is not easy platforming, I gotta say. Not easy, nor is it as fast. So again, wasting the player's time because of the artificial time gimmick of the stage. No, that's bad. But if you manage to make it past all of that and get to the section in time before the timer runs out, you get some pretty satisfying platforming. I do hate the spring though. The spring is just bad. I think this is like buggy, because if you hit the spring at like any angle, it'll send you at the ceiling where you'll bounce off and then you'll hit these spikes here. It's happened to me more times than it's like should have. You have to hit the spring from a specific angle so it just launches you right here, or you just gotta slow down midair, which again is possible and it isn't. It's like doable, but it's not. It's weird to expect that of the player when springs have worked fine so far throughout the game. So it's definitely a big no-no in my book. I would say this entire segment here is the best part of the level, but all of this part is bad. And when I say best part of the level, I mean it's playable, it's decent, it's not as fun as Secret Base or Neon Green Hill. So yeah, bad level. I do not like Egg Rocket. Good aesthetic, bad design. Moving on to the final level of the game. Now, Chaos Angel is actually a pretty interesting level because it's sort of like not an Act 2 to Egg Rocket, but sort of is. And also, it's, for some reason, weirdly, one of the least densest levels in the game. Like, all the levels previously have just been these huge jungles, and Cosmic Angel is just like one level, 2 levels, a potential 3rd level, a very stupid bottomless pit that just kills you. Oh, actually, no, it doesn't, because this is an anti-gravity segment. Wow, so they even get the no bottomless pit thing correct. That's crazy. This level is actually pretty good. I would give it a solid A tier just because I like the aesthetic, and the level design is actually pretty rewarding. There's still some BS enemy placement, like, if I'm not mistaken, there's an enemy on a platform that you have to jump up. Right here. This enemy right here, very BS, because it shoots at you with this platform, and it can potentially knock you all the way down to this bottom segment, which is not fair. I don't think it's fair to knock the player down when they've been platforming well. A player's failure shouldn't be punished with, like, boring game or frustrating game. That's just very unfun and quickly drains the frustration index. So overall, I'd say Sonic Advance is a pretty decent 2D platformer. It shines brightest at the beginning of the game, but towards the end drags off a cliff between Ice Mountain's frustrating boss, one of the worst in probably all of 2D Sonic, in my opinion. Then you have Angel Island and Egg Rocket back-to-back, which are extremely frustrating with their design. You get rewarded with Cosmic Angel at the end, but it's not worth it after all the torment you're going through and the huge steam loss that you got from dealing with all the BS in the previous levels. But yeah, Chaos Angel ends off with a solid A ranking. Overall, as I continue on to this series, you'll see that the level design decides to get way better, especially in Sonic Advance 3, but underratedly, I think Sonic Advance 2 has some pretty good level design. The way it manages to blend speed and a higher exhilarating gameplay style, while turn off to other people, was simply a blast to play through as a kid. And though that game has some obvious shaky levels, overall, I think the end result is a very satisfying speedrunning game that doesn't take too much of your time and can be completed fairly quickly. Unlike Sonic Advance, which the final 2 levels really drags down the pacing of the game a lot. So overall, those are my thoughts. And again, I'm not the guru of this stuff. You can disagree with me, and I'm curious as to what you think of Sonic Advance's levels. As, was I right? Were my opinions hot takes? Do I not know what I'm talking about? Feel free to tell me in the comment section below. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time on the Plexi Tier channel. Peace.